Testing 1, 2. Hello. All right. It works.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Good evening, good Shabbos. Welcome to Congregation Dor Tamid in our Friday evening Kabbalat Shabbat worship service. It is wonderful to be with each and every one of you this evening as we welcome in Shabbat, welcome in this day of rest that we are given each week as a gift. It's wonderful to be with all of you here in the sanctuary, as well as everyone joining us on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, or our website virtually, as we come together for one of our final Shabbatot of this year 5782, as we approach Rosh Hashanah in just a week. We begin this evening by singing the words that say how beautiful it is that all of us can be together, singing together, celebrating together, praying together in unity. Page 128.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Ma yafe hayom Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafe hayom Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
It's always a joy when young members of our community who have gone away for school, gone away for other reasons, come home to CDT. And so I'm going to invite two of them, Jenna and Sydney, to the Bima to help us welcome in Shabbat as we all turn to page 120 to kindle our Sabbath lights.
Vetzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Page 124, we read responsively. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. We enter into our service of Kabbalat Shabbat, our service for the welcoming of Shabbat, with Psalm 95 on page 130.
Lechu niranena l'Adonai, nariya lesoyishenu, nekadma fana betoda, bismiro nariya lo. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash.
Page 136. Mizmor LeDavid. Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim. Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Hishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh. A psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. Together, the voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kaddish. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calf and strips forests bare, while in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. We turn now to page 142 as we welcome in the angels of Shabbat with the singing of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barakuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn now to page 144, transitioning into our evening Marif service with the words of the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalmad yivrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh.
B'chayechon u'yom echon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael.
Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv ve'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam olam me'almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, ve'yishtabach, ve'yitpa'ar, ve'yitromam, ve'yitnaseh, ve'yitadar, ve'yitaleh, ve'yitalal, shemei de kudesha berichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, na'amirat bi'alma, v'immeru. Amen. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai Amvorach. Baruch Adonai Amvorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai, lai, lai, 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 yalalai, lai, lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Please be seated as we turn to page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu, kumenu na'asiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, be'orech yameinu, vahem nege yomam valayla nege yomam valayla. Yahavatcha al tasid mimenu leolamim. Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Ve'ata et
Adonai
Elohecha, b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadivarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinatam levanecha, v'dibartam, v'shivtecha, b'beitecha, u'vlechtecha, b'derech, u'v'shofecha, u'v'chumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'yisharecha, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We read responsively now on page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osei fele. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osei fele. Baruch ata Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu L'Shalom. V'ha'amidenu Shomrenu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu L'Shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Page 162, we turn now to words of Torah that remind us that as we keep this Shabbat, it will keep us as well and renew our souls.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasod et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, Lasod et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabbat la'asod et hashabbat leDorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asod et HaShabbat leDorotam berit olam.
We turn now to page 164 for the Amidah, the central prayer section of our service. We will sing the opening psalm together and then continue silently through page 181. We're using the words on the page and also the words and prayers that you hold in your hearts and minds.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata umelech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata umelech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
This week, our Torah portion, Parshat Kitavo, brings to us two very specific rituals that are commanded to our ancestors just prior to them going into the land of Israel. The Parsha begins with Moses telling the people, Kitavo, when you come el haaretz, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha, to the land that the Lord your God will give to you, that you should inhabit the land and work the land and farm the land. And when you do so, you will year after year after year harvest your fruits. Harvest the fruits of the land, whether they be literal fruits from the tree or the wheat, the vegetables, whatever the produce is that you are growing from the land. And in doing so, rather than eat the first fruits, sell the first fruits, we are commanded to donate, to give to the temple in Jerusalem those first fruits. But we're not just commanded to give it. When we give the first fruits, the Torah then says, the priest shall take the basket from your hand and set it down in front of the altar of the eternal your God. Then it says, Vayanita v'amarta lifnei Adonai Elohecha, arami oved avi, v'yered mitzrayma v'yager sham bimtei me'at. Words that may sound familiar, should to many of us sound familiar, from the Haggadah Shal Pesach, from the Passover Seder and its Haggadah. My father was a wandering Aramean, and he went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. This ritual, even the words we say, are set forth in very specific detail in our Torah. Just a chapter later, another ritual is given in very specific detail. We are told that when we enter into the land, we are to split the community in half. And half should go onto Mount Ebal, and half should go onto Mount Gerizim. And the Leviim, the Levites, and the Kohanim, the priests, would teach then the community Torah as they were entering into the land and pronounce the brachot the klalot, the blessings and the curses that God promised upon us if we were to or not to follow the mitzvot. But the ritual is very, once again, specific. And this parsha, as with many other parshayot during different times of the year, seems to fall, I think, at the right moment. Because starting when Shabbat leaves us tomorrow night, we will enter into the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, beginning with Slichot at Havdalah tomorrow, and then the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And as we go through the holy day season, there are a number of very specific and explicit mitzvot and ritual moments that are laid out for us. We sound the shofar a specific number of times. We stand together wearing our white with the Torahs and our talitot at night, which is not normal, not usual, as we sing the Kol Nidre, trying to erase the vows that we have been unable, even though we've tried to fulfill. And there are many others throughout the Holy Day season, from the banging of our chests on Yom Kippur to the standing in front of the open ark and hearing or singing the words of Avinu Malkeinu. Rituals that are laid out for us, rituals that have such power and such meaning and such familiarity. But they only happen once a year. They're rituals that are set forth for us to enter into the days of awe, to put us in the right frame of mind, to show us the majesty of the moment, to show us the power of our Creator and the role of the divine in the world. And for many of us, even though we do them year after year after year, they still lack the familiarity of Friday night, of Shabbos. Not to mention the fact that they're all said in Hebrew or in Aramaic, which adds another barrier to the understanding directly of what is being done and said. That's not to say that we shouldn't do these things, just as it's not to say we shouldn't have gone into the land and split up onto the two mountains, or gone into the land and said, Arami Oved Avi, each time we brought our first fruits. The Torah reminds us in this parsha that the ritual is important. The acts are important. But we're taught that the kavanah behind the acts, the intentionality, the meaning, the thoughts and prayers that we hold within ourselves are just as important. Sing Kol Nidre or don't. But what goes through your mind? What are you feeling? Where are the prayers from your heart in that moment, listening to the cello, listening to Mike sing? Bang on your chest or not. But what are we asking of ourselves? What are we asking of God in that moment? That's what the ritual is driving us to do. It's asking us to do something unfamiliar, uncomfortable, to push us to examine ourselves. And so the Torah reminds us this week of the importance of ritual as we head into the unfamiliar rituals of the High Holy Days. But the rabbis also remind us that we should enter into this time with the proper kavanah, the proper intentionality, so that through the thoughts we have, the meditations we have, the prayers we have, coupled with the rituals, will allow us to do the holy work of chashbon hanefesh, of the accounting of our souls that really ramps up, really takes precedence in the Jewish calendar beginning tomorrow night. Shabbat Shalom. With our hearts opened by words of Torah and learning together, we take a moment as we think of members of our community who are ill. Some are at home recovering, some are in the hospital. Some have diseases and illnesses from which they may never recover. At this time, we think especially of David Sankey, Diane Frontman, Ken Frontman, Harley Berlant, Emily Poisson, Stanley Bissell, Rena Fields, Richard Jacobs, Randy Bazerman, Brooke Jacobs, Carolyn Eisenhart, Spencer Schilling, Larry Futterman, Marty Barish, Gary Paul, Brian Berger, Chandler Jacobs, Dory Korn, Harriet Jacobs, Renee Fahn, Susan Abrams, Yael Bat David Valea, Bev Mahone, Alan Friedman, Sarah Kahn, Lee Silverstein, Jill Van Team, Eleanor Goodman, Yuli Markovich, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershon, Reva Fisher, Leslie Knight, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Max Jacobs, Kathy Waldner, Richard Zuspin, Christopher Denton, and Phyllis Lapin. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of a prayer of healing, I invite you to say their name out loud as my eyes meet yours, or if you are joining us virtually, to add their name at this time to the chat. We think of all of them and we ask for God's healing presence to be with all that we have named and all those that we hold in our hearts. We ask God as well to care for victims of violence around the world. May they be blessed with health and hope, healing and love. We ask God to watch over those who care for the sick each day. May their hands and their hearts be blessed with strength, wisdom, love, and support. As we ask for God's healing presence to be with all of them, all of us, so we turn to page 371 and we sing together.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We turn to page 586 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tet kedula liyotzeh bereshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, u'shchinat uzo begovei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. The light of life is like a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days since their funerals, of Itai Rosen, Alan Bronfman, and Alan Hockheiser. And we mark the yardzites, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Lucia Bessa, Arnold Chayet, Margaret Danzig, Sandra Hodis, Louis Shumsky, and Ava Waldner. If you are remembering someone, I invite you to share their name with the community or add it to the chat as my eyes meet yours. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories continue to be a blessing. And may we take their memories into our hearts along with the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them, rising as one community and turning to page 598 for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayei uv'yomei uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam l'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all the bereaved among us with the blessing of peace. As together we all say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Please be seated. Good Shabbos, everyone. Good evening. It was a pleasure being with all of you this evening as we welcome in Shabbat. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude our service with Kaddish and a motzi and a closing benediction before our Oneg Shabbat. Tomorrow evening, as I mentioned earlier, we will gather at 7 o'clock for a nash and a brief text study about the shofar before entering into our Slichot worship service, beginning officially the days of awe. We will enter into prayer with the liturgy and melodies of the High Holy Days, along with changing the Torahs into their white garments for the days of awe, and where we will hear the blast of the shofar, our first Tekiah Gedola of the festival season year. Then on Sunday morning at 8:30, Kol Sason, our youth choir, will have their final rehearsal before helping lead us in prayer on Rosh Hashanah. And at 9 o'clock, religious school for pre-K through 8th graders will be in session. Our sisterhood will have dessert and a discussion of the movie Tell Me Who I Am at 7 o'clock on Tuesday evening. And on Wednesday at 11 a.m., we have our Tanakh study where we will continue studying the book of Joshua. We got really far last week. We read one whole verse and really had a great discussion afterwards. So join us for some great conversations, great discussions at 11 o'clock each Wednesday morning. Then on Thursday, our sisterhood will have a women's wellness lunch. At noon, our knitting and crochet group meets at 1, and there is high holiday music rehearsals later
All
in
next
all day. Yes,
But the choir
is
that
at 7 o'clock on Thursday. Next Friday night, we will gather for our final Kabbalat Shabbat, 5782 at 7:30, because on Sunday evening, we will gather together here in the sanctuary, back home in our own building for the first time in 3 years, to welcome in the new year for Erev Rosh Hashanah services at 8 p.m. Then on Monday morning, Rosh Hashanah morning services are at 10 a.m., followed immediately by Tashlich, which will be this year at the pond, lake, body of water that is right behind Johns Creek City Hall. And then we'll come back here at 3:30 for our young family and children's service, including a petting zoo. Then on second day Rosh Hashanah, which is on Tuesday morning, we will gather again at 10 a.m. for worship services for the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And the following week, on the 4th and the 5th, is Yom Kippur. Watch for other things coming up during the holy days as we get into Sukkot and Simchat Torah. We have a lot scheduled and a lot planned. And so we hope to see you, as they say, early and often during the holy day season. Special thanks this week to Ashley Chenault, Carrie Wooten, Erica Cohn, and Michelle Dabowski for all of the hard work they put in, their time and their efforts, planning and executing and making dueling pianos this past weekend such a great event, such a wonderful success. For those of you who were here, it was a lot of fun. For those of you who weren't, we're sorry we missed you. You'll have to make sure to come next time. We're going to move to conclude our service now, first with anniversary blessings, because it is the third Shabbat of September. So if anybody has a September anniversary, I invite you to rise. Okay, we got a couple. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to the community. I think most people know who you are, but introduce yourselves to the community. And how many years are we celebrating this year?
Miracle Harvey. I am Ron. She is Bonnie. And we're celebrating 37 years.
Mazel tov.
Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Yeheladu.
And Ron and Bonnie, you two can stay standing because we're going to ask everyone else to join you in standing. I'm going to invite our lone pre-bar and bat mitzvah student. So Noah, come on up for Kiddush. As we all turn to page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzamanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta Yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yava u'v'ratzon hinchalatanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
And we're going to uncover the challah now. So now if you want to go get the challah.
It's a lot of challah.
As we sing together.
Mosi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. B'tei avod.
So now you can have the first piece of challah as we all turn to page 662 for our closing song in benediction. The words of Psalm 29, which are sung on the Shabbatot and each day as we approach Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Please join us.
Achat sha'alti meit Adonai otavakesh. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai otavakesh. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו. תקיעה.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.